I thought Baki was as violent as manga gets, but I was wrong, because there's a manga so raw, so unhinged, it makes Baki look soft. And by the end, you'll see why this series feels like it crossed the line on purpose. That manga is Sunken Rock. It drags you into the belly of the gangster underworld where love twists into bloodshed and spits you out with scars you can't shake off. And the craziest part, this manga was never supposed to exist. And the only reason it does is because Sunken Rock was born out of pressure. In the late 90s, a crackdown wiped out the entire shelves of adult comics overnight. So Boichi pursued true freedom in Japan, and that escape became Sunken Rock. He didn't know it then, but that would lead to the birth of one of his most violently cathartic manga of his entire career. But here's the twist, Sunken Rock wasn't Boichi's dream project. It felt like a hard pivot, the kind you make when you can't afford to miss. And that changes everything. Not for fun, not for money, but as a raw study of obsession, loneliness, and survival. And it's from that darkness that Sunken Rock was born, a manga that stopped feeling like fiction and started to feel like a warning carved in blood. You know, Benito, the body is inarguably important. That's why you must train it daily, because in this world, the only thing you truly own is the body you shape every day. Sunken Rock, Chapter 43. The best thing about Sunken Rock is Kentaro Kin. He's pure-hearted like any other MC, but raw, flawed, and painfully human. His journey starts with a failed dream, and somehow fate twists him into a crime boss. Not because he wanted power, but because of one thing: love. And this story is where that belief gets crushed, because those choices led to blood, bodies, and breaking his own soul. And the deeper I delved, the question changed into something uglier. Just how far can one man do for love? Apparently way too far, because you end up watching assault, murder, and betrayal. It's not as simple as beat him up and go home. Ken had to face the reality that the underbelly of crime lords runs deeper than we could ever imagine. And the people you build camaraderie with are tied to some dark, twisted things. I knew this manga was never going to get animated when the Yakuza thugs did what they did. And yeah, you have to read that part yourselves. Let's just say they tried to assault the girl at the bar hub until Ken saved her. Then she got mysteriously recaptured. What followed was easily the most disturbing thing I've read in manga. They pulled out things I didn't even know existed. It was in this arc that Ken learned it was going to take way more than fists to change anything. And it wasn't just Ken scarred by this arc, I was too. And by the time I was finished, I knew I carried it with me. Ken had his comrades to fall back on. Well, mostly. While the only thing I had was my sanity to keep reading. And even that wasn't enough. You and me, right here, right now.
Game over.
Speaking of fighting you, a guy who fought you before told me that you, Rasta-chan, are stronger than me. Do you think he's right? Other people said that I would die if I fought Bunfeng. My own men think that I would lose. And that's why, from now on, watch me, watch Kentaro Kin, and feel his wrath. The fights in Sunken Rock are on another level. Not because they're bigger, but because every arc feels like a final boss that pushes Ken further into hell. If I had to rank my favorite breakout fights, it would be the Korean gang arc, the casino, and the White Dragon Clan. And to be honest, the fights in some cases felt more brutal than Baki because of the sheer rawness and realism Sunken Rock represents. In Baki, you get random encounters that are hype, but then it's over. In Sunken Rock, the fights build in layers, and Boichi's art pushes that exact reason. Every panel hits with impact. Boichi's 2-page spread is more than an art form, they're judgments. When Ken lands a blow, Boichi makes the whole page shatter. Like, how often do you see manga in pools of blood in perfect shapes, or even how a villain's posture makes them look weighed down? It's like an anatomy study mixed with a psychological x-ray in 3D, but that's what makes these fights so insane. Each one brings out the hidden monster inside these characters, and not just fist clashing. And that's where the real genius shows up, because every fight has layers that the average reader might not catch at first. For instance, Layer 1, the organizations aren't just evil, they're empty. Layer 2, Ken isn't a hero, he's a mirror. And Layer 3, the aftermath hits harder than the fight themselves. And that's what keeps you reading. You want to see how a failure turns into an ultimate crime boss you can't help but respect and fear. But there's only so far a manga can go before it crosses a line no anime studio would ever dare to touch. You wanna know why this manga makes Baki look soft? Because Baki can't be animated, while Sunken Rock has moments you can't unsee, things that will never make it into an anime. And that's the difference. Baki is gritty, but Sunken Rock is unfiltered and is scarred into the page. Would an anime boost its popularity? Of course, but does that actually help you, the reader, live through these panels? Look at Berserk, Vinland Saga, Baki. Some got masterpieces, some got disasters, and some, like Sunken Rock, will probably stay trapped into the page forever. But maybe that's the point. The panels already give you everything, the detail, the imagination, the pain. And it kills me that we'll probably never see the final twist animated, because it scarred me as a reader, and honestly, it was one of the most shocking endings I've ever read in manga. I've started to notice a trend with these edgy stories. Baki never defeats Yujiro no matter how hard he trains. Thorfinn never really achieves true peace in the world of Vinland. And Ken? Well, he finally wins his dream girl, only to be shot by the same person who started his whole story in motion. But I gotta say that even though these respective characters didn't get exactly what they wanted, they still came out of their series a whole new person. Ken might have lost his dream girl, but he became the top boss in the end, and for that I'm glad. Most manga gives you closure, but Sunken Rock leaves you with silence. That's why his ending hits so hard. The brutality is loud, but the cost is even louder. And ever since I finished the story, I kept thinking about a dumb question. Who's actually stronger, Kitano Ken or Baki? And yeah, it depends on what you mean by strong, because they're both monsters in their own right, but the way they fight couldn't be more different. Baki is built to be a freak of nature. His muscles break physics, his speed's inhuman, and his whole life's been about surpassing his father, Yujiro Hanma. Ken wasn't born into that world. Every scar and every ounce of muscle was earned the hard way through street fights, beatdowns, and sheer willpower. Baki feels engineered, while Ken's body was built on the battlefield, and when you fight him, it's like fighting an entire army. Now mentally, Baki just wants to be the strongest. Ken wants to protect the ones he loves, and sometimes that's even scarier. If we're talking about raw technique and impossible feats, then Baki takes it, no question. But if you strip away the cartoony brutality and make it feel real, Ken wins every time. And that's why Sunken Rock makes Baki look soft. Baki will always chase strength, while Kitano Ken will always break himself for something bigger. Who do you think walks away from this fight? The lab-built monster or the battlefield boss? Let me know in the comments. Sunken Rock left me feeling empty, but Baki Uinchi, this was pure chaos from start to finish. Click here and you'll see what I mean. Job, my thought.